We'll start recording on the mixer in 5, 4, 3.
Y'all, listen. If there is one thing I've learned, adversity does not build character. Adversity reveals character. I'm Barbie Bassett, and I invite you to join me and my friends, Therese Apel and Traci Lee, as we peel back those adversity layers to see what else is revealed. Well, hey, everybody. Y'all, listen here. Listen here. We are thrilled to have you with us for this next episode. Kind of hard to believe. I think this is number 8. This is number 8, if my count is correct. And I've got my good friend Traci Lee here with me. Traci is with your U.S. Country 96.3. Hey, Traci.
Hey, Barbie. How are you?
So good to see you, sister.
I know, you too.
Well, we are missing our third sidekick, Therese Apel with Dark Horse Press. Therese is out today, but that's okay. She will be back with us again very, very soon. But we do have our man with the plan, our producer extraordinaire, Daniel Anderson. Yes, Daniel is our producer with Audio Alchemy Productions here in Madison, Mississippi, which, by the way, if you have a grand idea yourself and you would like to have your own podcast, Daniel's your guy.
Yeah.
Daniel is your man. He's been our man for at least the last several months. Wouldn't you say, Traci?
100%. I love him. You'll love him. He does such a good job, and he's affordable. Just throwing that out
Oh,
there.
we
Guys,
should say
stop
that.
it. Stop it. Keep going.
We
Keep going.
should
Keep
say
going.
that.
Keep going.
Yes, we do love Daniel. He pops up some of your words for us from time to time, so that way we can read what you are saying. And we're just happy to be here again because we are now in the throes of the holidays.
Yes. Have you already decorated? Are you an early decorator?
Girl, no, but I bet you got your tree up, don't you?
I mean, sometimes it's October. Sometimes it's November. I love it.
It is fun, though.
Yeah.
Now that the weather has begun to change just slightly here in the great state of Mississippi. And, of course, we look forward to spending the next several weeks with y'all as we go into the holiday season. We are talking about a topic today that I think we have all had to go through at some point, and that is surrender. Traci, now I know you've had these moments in your life where something happens and you want to fix it.
Yeah, I do. I think it's just by nature. I'm in management at work, and it's kind of my job to fix it. And I want to fix things. I want to put my hands on it. I want to make sure everything's exactly right. And there are some things in life that you just have to back away from. Surrender. I love that we're talking about surrender because something recently that the Lord has taught me is I was trying to find a work-life balance. I need a balance. And I'm like, I'm going to go to the Word. I'm going to find what the Word has to say about it. And I start digging in, and there's nothing really about balance in the Bible. And the Lord spoke to me, and he said, that's because I don't want your balance. I want your surrender.
Ooh.
That's where you find what you're looking for, is when you surrender the things that you're holding on to, whatever that is, relationships, work, family, then I will work it out. And it's hard to take your hands off of it because I argue, I petition with the Lord. And
there's a difference between the two.
Let me be all holy about it. No, but I'm like, but you gave me a creative mind. Don't you think this is a great idea? And most of the time he tells me, go to bed. You've talked enough. Just let me deal with this. And there have been times I thought that I would just go right on and help him, and it has blown up in my face.
Well, you know, as females and as type A personalities, which I would think that you and I both have some sort of type A with us, with our personalities, you want to make everybody happy. If there's something going wrong, you want to fix it.
Yeah.
And there comes a point, or there has come a point in my own life where it's like the Lord has said, you can't fix what you didn't break.
Yeah.
And
that's good.
When I have thought over this time how, you may say something that offends someone, or you may do something that offends someone, and then it's like the Holy Spirit brings it back and says, wait, you didn't break them. What they're offended about is not something that you created, because it has to do with maybe an experience that they had. And that's so relevant to what we see happening in our own lives today. When you see situations or you have your own personal challenge and you just want to get your hands in there, like you said, being a manager, you want to get your hands in there because for some reason, being type A's, we think that we can fix it.
We do. It's inbred in us. We
Yeah.
just feel like we can. And there are some things that we can, and some things that even on a spiritual level, I think God uses people to facilitate that change. But more times than not, He wants to be glorified through whatever is happening. And that usually He doesn't need our help
Yeah.
with that. So
It is hard to take your hands off the wheel. I mean, how many times have you been in a vehicle with someone and you find yourself pressing the brake?
So many that I usually drive when we go somewhere. Just that again, wanting to control the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where we as Christians have to have that posture of surrender, if that makes sense. Where there comes a point in our life where we realize, you know what, God, if I try to step in here and do this, I'm going to mess this up even more than it needs to be messed up. And I think there's a little meme out there. I think it's of a seagull, and it's got somebody's fingers on the seagull's bill, and it says, "When the Holy Spirit tells me to shut."
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
It is so hard having that posture of surrender because I've discovered that God doesn't always work on Barbie Central Time Zone.
No. It's hard to imagine that God has no time. I think so many times, I know I have personally tried to put human characteristics on Him, and that goes with everything, whether it's time constraints or what I expect Him to move this way or this way. He is so outside the box and the controller of all these things. I think we forget. And as Americans, honestly, I think we kind of struggle with the whole idea of majesty and king because we don't have that kind of society.
Oh, that's true.
You know? So when He is king and He has the final say, we don't understand that in like a monarchy because we have a president who never has the say and neither does Congress. I mean, you know, they're constantly fighting. So I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to grasp how final and how good He is, and trusting Him to make those decisions and to fix those things it can be hard.
And trust is hard when you have had mistrust. In your life before, when someone said, "Hey, I'll take care of it," or "I'll do it," or "I'll make you happy," or "I'll make sure that you're safe," and that doesn't end up happening, then you have problems with trusting people. And sometimes that bleeds over into our relationship with the Lord because it's hard for us to trust.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, God doesn't get a fair shake from us because we do try to put those characteristics on Him. Somebody else hurt me, so this must be how you are. I don't understand what love is. For me, love is physical. For me, love is this. So I don't understand this kind of love that you're talking about. I don't understand the depths of this. Are you mad at me because I did this? Everybody else is mad at me. Surely you must be mad at me too. I am still having to make amends for this. Surely I am still having to make amends with you who have no sin, who are the God of the universe. Surely you're holding that against me. It's contrary to the nature of God. He is full of grace and full of mercy. And He's like, come to me as you are. I will clean up your dirt. I just need you to come to me. Where with everybody else putting human characteristics on God, we're like, I've got to get myself together before I can do this. I have to get myself together. When I lose 5 pounds, when I get my hair cut, when I do this, then we move on to the next. And God's like, you just come.
Yeah.
And we can't fix that. I think sometimes even trying to fix our mind and the way we think about God is just, it can be so difficult sometimes.
So true. I'm looking at what Lee has just posted. He said it becomes hard to pause and let God in. He wants us to lean on Him. And it's important to know that we may feel as delays aren't God's denial. It becomes part of our testimony. And spot on with that, Lee.
Yeah.
Because in going through my own situations in life, I've learned that in fully surrendering to God to fix whatever problem is there, my goodness, he is revealing so much about me that he's wanting to fix in the process. So while we're asking him to fix this, whatever this is, he is refining me in that whole process of just trusting that he will fix this. We're in such a microwave society now where if something goes wrong, we want to fix it right then because we feel like we've got to interject whatever needs to be fixed. And many times in having that posture of surrender, it may take a while.
Yeah.
It may take days, it may take weeks, it may take months or years for him to fix whatever that is. But my goodness, at the growth
Right.
that is happening on the other side of that fixing.
Right. How many times on the other side of it do you look back and think, oh my gosh, I'm so glad
Yes.
that this did not go that way? It's so hard in the process. And it's easy for me to sit here and say that because I'm not dealing with what maybe you're dealing with, but it just is so worth it, you know, when you get through the other side of that and see where God has grown you and understand that is his main goal. Like that's his main goal.
Yeah.
He's not worried about clicks. He's not worried about what people are saying about you. He is trying to get you to a point where he has created you to be and grow you into who he sees and knows that you are. And that is so hard because we can't see what he sees.
Yeah.
When we look at ourselves in the mirror, I can tell you where all my wrinkles are. I can tell you exactly why why does my part look like that? Like I can tell you all the things, you know, but when God looks at us, it's through a filter of grace and mercy. And he's like, if you could only see what I see, if you only knew where I'm going with this, if you could only see what I have in store for you, you would trust me.
Yeah.
If you could only see, but that's where faith comes in. We can't see.
Yeah.
We don't know, but we have to know him regardless of where our next step is. We just have to do that.
And how many times have we laid something at his feet or even literally, you know, gone to the front of the church, maybe put something figuratively and literally at the altar, if you will. And then it's like we go back and God, how you doing on that prayer request? It's like we need to check back on it and see how well he's doing it and if he's doing it in our own central time zone. And it's so hard that we have to go back and, you're right, Lord.
Yeah.
I picked it up.
You know,
I put it down and then I went back and picked it up.
Here's the thing about that, and I've often wondered this, and this is just like a conversation, so forgive me if I'm off script here, but, you know, I don't want to continue praying about something because, the Bible's like, don't be like the hypocrites who stand on the corner and just say da-da-da-da-da, but then pray without ceasing.
Yeah.
Like, how do you do both of those
Yeah.
things? And it's just, it becomes a heart matter and a relationship matter with God. And I don't want anybody watching us or listening to us to think that we have it all together. Oh my gosh, if you could hear conversations that we have.
Yes.
We're crazy. But, it's just, we don't know anymore either. But I think that's why, too, having a community of people who believe and who pray is so important. Because how many times have one of us had a conversation and not had any idea about doing anything, but you have people around you that are praying and encouraging you to surrender it, to lay it down, and to remind you that you have somebody watching over you that is bigger than you.
Yeah.
Just like Moses needed two people to hold his arms up. And sometimes we got to have people to hold us up to remind us of the sovereignty of God.
So true. I've got an older gentleman friend, and he said that he remembers so clearly when his daughter was young and in that doll playing stage and how she had asked him one time, Daddy, will you build me a dollhouse? And he said, absolutely. Well, then he went back to doing what he was doing, which he was, preparing for a big sermon and whatnot. And a few minutes later, he began noticing that she was slowly but very intently walking all of her dolls through the house and taking them outside. And she would just walk past him with another pile of dolls and another pile of furniture and another pile of clothes, and she was all taking it outside. And he looked over at his wife and he said, what in the world is she doing? And the wife said, well, she asked if you would build her a dollhouse, and she's just preparing for it. And he said it hit him like a ton of bricks that he immediately went out to the local hardware store
Yeah.
and purchased whatever wood, whatever fasteners were needed to go fix his little girl, go create a dollhouse for her. And he said it hit him like a ton of bricks that's the way the Lord is with us. When we ask him to do something, okay, Lord, I'm surrendering this thing to you, or this situation or this challenge to you. When you ask him to do that, you just need to prepare for that.
Yeah.
He's unlike us where he forgets and he goes back to doing whatever he was doing, like my friend was, but he's already done that for us. And so he doesn't forget that. We just have to act in the faith, leaving it there and letting him handle it.
It's so hard. It's so hard to do that, especially when you're hurting.
Yes.
Or it's somebody that you love, that you're praying on behalf of them, or asking God on behalf of them, or holding on to a promise.
Yeah.
That you know that God has given you, but nothing makes sense and it doesn't look like it's anywhere around you. It is so hard to do that. And make no bones about it. We can sit here and wax poetical all day long, but it is hard. Life is hard. And when you have to get up every day and pick up the cross, I think you have to put things down in order to hold on to it.
Ooh, girl, that'll preach.
So maybe that's what the Bible's talking about. When you pick the cross up daily, the cross for Christ was a burden.
Yeah.
His cross for us is freedom. So when we put down our burden, we pick up his freedom. If you look at it like that, and again, it's easy for me to say because at this moment, I'm okay.
Right.
Tomorrow morning, it may be a totally different scenario. It may be a totally different thing. And I will stomp and cry and act like a 2-year-old to the creator of the universe because he's not moving on my time. If that doesn't say something about his grace, I don't know what is, because I should just be a grease spot on the earth because I would have no patience with me whatsoever. But he does. He does with all of us.
Yeah.
And there's no end to his grace and mercy.
And I'll admit there have been times where, you pray for the same thing over and over and over again, kind of what you're just saying.
Yeah.
You're praying for that answer to come, or you're praying for him to fix that thing. And then you finally get to the point that you're like, okay, God, I've prayed about this so many times. You handle it.
Right. Right.
Where you know what needs to be done, so you handle it. And I've had those moments where I've not mentioned anymore what I'm praying for. Lord, you know what needs to be done. And I literally just say that in my prayer. And it's an acknowledgement that he knows that I'm putting all that faith in him. But my goodness, it is so hard. Like when you say, when it's a daily thing and that microwave hasn't dinged and said, okay, your answer is now here.
Right. And sometimes, honestly, the answer is not what we want.
Yeah.
And that hurts. And, it's dawned on me in this phase of my life how unnatural death is and how obviously we were never supposed to experience it because it's such a ripping away of the people that we love and the things that we love. And that was not Christ's picture of what this was supposed to be. So sometimes when we're praying for healing or for those things and it doesn't happen, it's so easy to be discouraged and to start pointing fingers and saying, why didn't you hear me? I don't understand. I'm doing everything right. I did everything you wanted me to do, and you said no, or you took it away from me. It's so easy for us to turn that anger and blame on God, which is, again, just a way of us to try to manipulate and hold on and control the situation.
Yeah.
When he knows and sees so much more than we do, it doesn't mean our heart's not going to break. It doesn't mean that we can't cry and scream at him because we don't understand. But at the end of the day, we have to understand he has our best interest at heart. And he wants us on this earth more than anything else is to bring glory to him.
Yeah.
If we could ever get it in our minds, and I'm talking to myself with this too, how good and deep and rich and long suffering the mercy of God is, and how good he is to us. It does not feel that way when things are all against us and we are going uphill on roller skates. It is so hard when it looks like there's no out. But God is a God of the impossible. And he says, try me on this. do this for me. I will show you. How many times did he show up in the Old Testament and fight for his people, like physically fight for them? He opened the earth at one point, swallowed people up, and closed it back. And don't think I haven't prayed that for people before. I'm like, can we have a redo over here of that?
We want a rerun.
yes. But the grace and the mercy that he has for us in the process of learning that surrender will take your breath away.
Yeah. And he's big enough for that. He's big enough to handle our disappointment. He's big enough to handle our God, been asking for this for quite some time and there's no answer yet. He's big enough to handle that. Whereas we as human beings, if someone were to come to us and I were to come to you and say, Traci, you said you were going to handle this like 3 weeks ago and you haven't done it, that would hurt your feelings.
Yeah, but it also made me jump off and do it too.
Well, I'm sitting here looking at what Angela says. She says, this is the second time that God has put a faith message in my path. Thank you, girls, for helping God to make me see that I need to have faith with everything that I am dealing with. Wow. I mean, Angela, let us first of all say thank you for that. But we also want to acknowledge that we literally just texted about this topic yesterday.
Yeah.
This is truly the Holy Spirit at work. We don't sit here and plan out these topics weeks at a time. Sometimes it's within just a couple of hours before we do this podcast and say, hey, what do y'all think about this? Or I'm struggling with this. Can we talk about this?
Right.
So the simple fact that the Lord has us talking about this today, that's on him. That's not on us. And then, of course, Melanie says, love to listen to all of you. And we appreciate so much that you're watching. Maybe you're watching this as a replay. And that brings us up to this topic is, Traci, we would not be able to do this if it weren't for our sponsors.
Yes.
And we have a phenomenal sponsor indeed. They are our only sponsor at this point. I want to make sure that we give them the shout out, and that is Complete Exteriors, roofing, gutters, residential, and commercial. I should tell you this, Traci. I got an invitation one day last week to come and be a part of Complete Exteriors Thanksgiving luncheon.
Oh, nice.
And I was not able to attend because I was doing some influencer videos for someone else. But I thought, you know what? The simple fact that they invite people to come be a part of their office Thanksgiving luncheon.
Yeah.
And I'm not an employee of them. That shows you the kind of company that we have here in this metro area. So when you've got those roof leaks or the roof damage caused by storms or debris or someone falling through the roof, you never know. Complete Exteriors, they need to be your first phone call because I just mentioned they're more than a roofing contractor. They are here in our community. They actually started back in 2007, and Complete Exteriors is our hometown roofing contractor for residential, for commercial roof issues. You can give them a call right now, 601-326-2755, or you can go see their website, CompleteExteriorsMS.com. You can see all of the things that they can do. You can see all sorts of photos that they have there. Just give them a call. They'll come out. They'll do a free estimate for you. And whether you choose them or not, they don't get their feelings hurt. They just want to come out and be of service to you. So thank you to Complete Exteriors for being one of our avid sponsors here. Our only avid sponsor here, I should say, Daniel. We need to get Daniel out on the road and have Daniel start, trying to sell some ads for us here on Y'all Listen Here.
He looks great in a skirt.
He does. No, but back to our topic. It is so heartwarming for us to hear that you're getting some value out of this topic just simply because of things that we're going through and things that we're talking about. Really, again, it goes back to the posture of surrender. And I have to believe, Traci, that the Lord sees when something's so hard to give up, how he sees that we open our hands. One thing I learned years ago, hold things loosely. don't hold things like this. Hold things loosely so that way they have the opportunity to filter through into his hands so that way he can fix them. But he sees the fact that we finally say, okay, Lord, I can't fix this. It's yours.
You know, it makes me think about every year we team up with Children's of Mississippi and do radiothon, and we go to the hospital. My radio group does.
Yes.
And we're all in a room, and we have gotten to know these patients over the years that come through, these children and their parents. And I have never seen a child come through that is sad about their diagnosis, whatever they're dealing with. They could be there that day for chemo. They could have had a heart transplant or surgery. They could have had a brain tumor and had it taken out. Not one child, not one, is mad about their condition. Not one. Now, parents are hurt and dealing with that. There are some parents that don't have the outcome that other parents do, but those parents, every one of them, I haven't seen one of those parents or caregivers come through that are angry or mad or feel like they had to take care of it.
Yeah.
They knew at that point it was out of their control and they had to trust somebody bigger than them to take care of the thing that they love the most. And that is such a great testament to surrender.
It is.
And they were, it's my favorite thing that we do in a year is seeing those families and those children do that, because it is a living example of absolutely surrendering your most prized thing and not knowing what's going to happen.
Wow. That's
Don't
faith.
know what's going to happen. It is faith. It's faith every day at Children's, every day. It's just it's where miracles happen. That hospital, we talk about it all the time, but it's a visual representation of what we may have to be doing emotionally and spiritually with the God of the universe.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
It's a blind faith, but at the same time, we know who we're putting our faith in.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking at what Paige just said. She said, this is just what I needed today. Some things that I wrote down when I was thinking about this topic today. Surrender is one of the postures of a Christian that the enemy fears the most.
That's the truth.
Because he wants us to hold on to whatever that thing is. Because that thing, holding on to that thing, holding on to that issue, holding on to that challenge, holding on to that unforgiveness, to that offense, keeps us in angst and oppression and depression and restricts our faith in him. And it really puts all the responsibility on us. And I don't know about you, Tracy, but I can't fix things.
Right. And I'm tired. I don't want any more responsibility. And that is so true, Barbie. That is so true that it does that.
I also wrote down that surrender can be one of the greatest spiritual weapons ever used to defeat the enemy. When we say, God, I trust you.
Yeah. And you know what surrender, I think, comes maybe scary with surrender. Not only the we don't knows, or we don't know what the outcome is going to be, but the honesty that you have to have, not only with yourself, but with God.
Yeah.
I think if you're struggling with something, no matter what it is, no matter how embarrassing it is, and you try to hide it and tuck it away, or it's the thing I need to deal with before I get to that next place, having an open and honest conversation with God. There have been, I can think of 2 times in my life where I had to have what would be an embarrassing conversation with God.
Yeah.
You know, and be like, I need you to know that this is something that I'm dealing with and I don't know what I'm doing. And it's almost like it was a whisper, because I was so ashamed or so scared that he was going to be like, you are the most disgusting, you know, and just have these things. But there was such a power and a freedom in that, because like you said, the enemy loves it when he can hold us down. But when you totally surrender and admit it to God, and maybe admit it to yourself.
Yeah.
And he is able to say, okay, let's deal with it.
Yeah.
And he does. And, you know, I always kind of live by this thing. You kick over the rocks in your life, because bad things grow in dark places. Kick it over. Let the light get in. It doesn't mean you have to write a book about it.
Right.
It doesn't mean you have to go up front on Sunday and give a testimony that you're dealing with this. If you do feel like the Lord's leading you, go ahead. But those moments can be private too. Those things in your life that trip you up, that are embarrassing, that you would die if anybody else knew, those honest, open, mouth to God's ear conversations is the most powerful, the most freeing thing that you can do as a believer. It is the absolute most powerful thing that you can do, because at that point, you take the power away from the enemy who is just using it to beat you up, and you put it in the hands of the one who came to save you, who withheld nothing, by the way, to save you. It is so empowering. I don't know what it is that you're struggling with. I have no idea. No idea what it is. If you have that quiet conversation, it could be in your car on the way home. If you're a crier like me, do not recommend it, especially with that bridge construction on 55.
Girl, isn't that the truth?
No, people have lost their minds. Lost their minds around Woodrow Wilson. Okay. See, that's something I need to confess on the way home. But, get in your place and do it. If it's in the shower, you can cry in the shower and nobody knows. Those are those places that you just do it, but do it. It will be the most powerful thing and the simplest thing that you do. I promise you it will change your life.
I'm thinking back to being a parent, and my youngest right now is taking an English comp class. And I enjoy when one of my kids comes to me and says, I need help.
Yeah.
I need help with this. And that's typically where, the human part of me comes out and I'm like, well, you're in luck, honey, because I minored in English and I can help you with this. But no, as a parent, my heart just like grows 10 times when one of my kids come to me and say, can you help me with this? Or can you look over this and see if I'm doing this right? And I can only imagine that that's what the Lord does.
Yeah.
When we come to him in that posture of surrender and say, I need some help with this,
Yeah.
or I can't fix this. Can you help me?
Yeah.
That he's like, I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah. And it doesn't even matter if you haven't mastered it yet, like you haven't gotten over it, or you haven't gotten out of it.
Yes.
I remember being in one of the darkest places I was ever in my life. I was so broken. And I knew that change needed to happen. I knew it. I didn't know how to get out of it. I had no idea. God was closer to me then than he has ever been. And he had every reason to walk away from me, and he didn't. He just drew closer. And if that doesn't say something about the love of God, I don't know what is. I don't have children. I don't know what that love is between a parent and a child.
Right.
But I had dogs.
Yes.
And I remember Baxter, he was a little Monty Poo. He had a heart condition and it would make him sick. And I remember when he would get sick, he would run and hide from me. And I wouldn't hurt him for anything, and he knew that. But he was so upset because he knew I had to clean it was on the carpet or the rug or wherever. And I would leave it because the mess is not a concern to me. I can clean the mess up. I'm more concerned about you.
Yes.
And I would go seek him out and pull him out from under the bed and console him and love him and make sure that he was okay. Then I would go clean the mess up. The mess was not the most important thing. It was not the thing that bothered me. I wanted to make sure that my baby was okay.
Yeah.
And I have to imagine that that's how God feels about us. I don't care about your mess. I can clean up your mess. I've already cleaned up your mess on the cross. It's fine. I can take care of it. How are you? Come here. Come here. Come sit in my lap. I used to love for my grandmother to rock me, because you're nowhere safer in the world than when your grandmother or your daddy's rocking you. And I kind of feel like that's how it is to be wrapped up. And with God, I don't have a husband. I don't have kids. I don't have anything to hold that kind of love up against. But it's got to be like that because it's the sweetest thing I've ever experienced on this side of heaven.
That is so good. I started looking in the Bible. I'm like, okay, who are some examples of people who had to surrender, or some situations? And as the Lord's so good about reminding me, Mary surrendered.
Yeah.
You think about what she surrendered, being the earthly mother to Jesus. You think about Jesus surrendering to God's will for him in the garden. And in both of these, there was pain, okay? So there was pain, and there was deep personal struggle in the surrender.
Yeah.
And you said something so good just a second ago when you were saying, I don't have to get it all together. I don't have to get myself together. I don't have to be over whatever it is
Right.
in order to surrender.
Right.
So even Mary, even Jesus had their own pain and their own deep personal struggle in the surrender. Also, I think back to when we do surrender whatever that thing is or that issue is in what we want, it actually opens the door for God to do what He wants.
Yeah.
And to me, that is freeing.
Yeah. It really is. 100%. And that is all through the Bible. It is the theme of the Bible all the way back to Abraham and Isaac, and Abraham having to put Isaac on the altar.
Yes.
The ultimate form of, okay, you can have everything I want. Where it was Ruth leaving her kinmen and going with Naomi and doing that. And what was Samuel's mother's name? Because she had to surrender him. And I can't remember her name. Hannah.
Mhm.
Is that her name?
Mhm.
Yeah. She had to surrender him to go to do these things, all of these great feats by women that had to surrender the thing that was the closest to them to usher in the thing that drew us closer to God.
Yeah.
Because it is nothing but an echo and a setup for Jesus the whole time. All of the surrenders, all of the setups, everything got us to this point.
Wow. I'm a couple of scriptures I looked up, Luke 9:23. Then he said to them all, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself. There's the surrender word again.
Yeah.
And take up his cross daily and follow me. Philippians 2:5. You must have the same attitude that Christ Jesus had. That's hard.
Yeah.
That is so
now,
hard.
the flipping the tables part I
okay,
got.
well, okay.
I got
that's
that
it.
down pat.
You got that
I
one
don't
down.
have it in the right spirit, but I got it.
Look at what Kayla just said. Kayla said, phew, good stuff right here. And Becky said that she's loving this topic right now. I was thinking on Peter.
Yeah.
And you remember Peter when he pulled the sword out and he cut off the ear of one of the soldiers. I don't think his intention was to cut off the ear.
Mm-hmm.
His intention was to take the soldier out.
Yeah.
Okay. But even doing that, Peter was face to face with an injustice. Peter wanted to fix it.
Yep.
Wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Okay. So he was a man of action. He was trying to stop that betrayal from taking place. And it was that injustice that was provoking Peter to draw his sword. But then you look and see what happens on the flip side of that even Jesus redeemed Peter having that provoking spirit where he, this is wrong. I'm mad. This shouldn't happen. But even on the flip side, Jesus made it all good.
Yeah. That's what he does.
Mm.
He's in the business. He's good. And he just extends that to us.
Yeah. Something else I wrote down, our personal act of surrender that often comes in a great time of pain, injustice, and personal crisis. It has a far greater effect on others than we will ever know. We may not ever realize that when we surrender, when we put down what it is that only God can fix, how that affects others watching us.
Right.
Seeing how we're handling situations or how it could affect them in their future because we didn't draw the sword.
Right.
Right. When we had the opportunity to fix things the way we think they should have been fixed.
Right. When we are right.
Yes.
When we are in the wrong. When people are not, when we've been painted to be in the wrong, when we've been falsely accused and pushed into a corner. The New World Order will tell you, you need to speak your truth.
Yes.
And you need to get it out and you need to fight and defend that. You're not going to, I'm worth more than this. That's hard in a society that's like, well, it must be true because you're not saying anything.
Yeah.
Why aren't you talking back? I don't understand. If it didn't happen, then why aren't you doing this? And you've got a million people trying to chime in on the situation when at the end of the day, you are letting God fight your battles. I mean, the Bible is very specific about that. Be still and I will fight for you. And that's kind of, I know it's not in the right spirit. I'm working on it. But you have like when people are mad or they're trying to come against me, I'm like, bring it on, buddy. I'm not fighting you. I will read you some passages that should make you not sleep at night. And that, again, not the right spirit, but we're being honest here. We're just friends, right?
Well, you sound like you're talking about me. I mean, truly, I feel like that you have had a peek into my situation without talking about that situation from the standpoint of how you say, people say, well, you're being quiet about this, or why aren't you taking up for yourself? When you realize you got to surrender that.
Yeah.
And let him handle it, because we would completely mess it up.
God, and how hard it is. I know in our positions, like being in the public, not defending yourself and having that image totally ruined, and you can't say anything. You want to be like,
oh, wait, well, let's back it up. Oh, you could say something.
oh, you could.
You could say a lot.
I might.
But you've chosen not to.
In the moment.
Let's go.
And you will. When
the time is right.
When the Holy Spirit releases you.
Yes, when the time is right.
To speak that. But really, y'all, that could be for anything, though, Tracy.
Yeah.
That could be for anything. Sometimes the Lord just, like that meme, hush. But it is so, so true. So I know we're wrapping up, y'all. We're seeing your comments. Thank you so much for everything that you're saying. We're glad to hear that what we're going through, that you're finding yourself in here, and you're finding this as an encouragement. So what are your parting thoughts for the day, Sister Tracy?
Well, here's my thing. I think community is so important. And I know as women, we're so busy. We have a million things going on, especially right now with the holidays. And if you come across something like this, or a podcast that you're listening to, I know a lot of my friends are doing the Bible recap, find community somewhere that will hold you accountable and that will remind you to surrender. I'm so lucky that I have that. And I hope that you do too. And if not, we can be that for you. Like, I just feel like community is so important, and to just encourage you that you're not by yourself in this. I think if we were all honest about the things that we're dealing with, we'd find out we have a lot more in common than we don't.
So true.
And I miss Therese.
I do too.
So much.
And she's probably watching us right now. Hey, Therese, we love you. We miss you. And of course, we'll see you again very soon. It's time for us to have lunch again, buddy.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, so we're going to have to do that. Alfie just said the amount of times that I've typed something out, but then I delete it. Yeah.
Preach.
We've all done that before. Again, that's just the Holy Spirit telling you.
I have a 75% success rate on that. So there's that 25%. And I feel bad as soon as I do it. I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I knew I was going to hate it, and I do it anyway.
The thing that I wrote down to kind of put my thoughts back together is stop feeling the need to swing the sword of the Spirit in the natural. So put back the sword of the flesh. Pick up the sword of the Spirit.
It's good.
Which is surrendering
so good
to His will and His word.
That's so good.
Man, this has been deep today, and I didn't mean for it to be deep, Daniel. But
blame you, Daniel. Yeah, it's because Therese is not here.
Therese is not here. Can you imagine what other flavor Therese would have added to this conversation?
And I love her so much, and I know we're all going through different phases in our life, and I love her so much, and I want you to know that we miss you, Therese.
Yeah, we do miss you, and we will see her again soon. And we are so thrilled that you made a part of your day with us. Hey, y'all, share this with somebody. If you think that this could be of encouragement and support to someone else who might be dealing with something very similar, just hit the share button or hit the copy link button and send it to someone, because really that's what we're doing here on Y'all Listen Here. We'll see you next time.
It's a brand new day.